Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only ICP. Now, look, right? ICP has surged a lot last week. And, over the last couple of days, I guess even technically kind of Saturday and Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now Thursday, it has been selling off, right? It has been selling off. And we're going to be talking about that, right? We are going to be talking about that. We go into the basics. We can see we rank 34 out of 9,222 active cryptos, 3.16 billion market cap. So a titan of a crypto. We can see roughly half a million, sorry, not half a million, half a billion in volume, a little bit less, 436 million, but still a lot. We can see over the last month, we are still technically up 65%. In the last week, we are down roughly 11, almost 12% at this point. And in the last day, we're down a little bit more than 7.5%. On the year, we're down 30%. So if you bought during these highs of December, right, when it pumped up, you are down roughly 30%. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. That's not possible. 12 bucks, 580. No. No, you're down more. You're down more. I don't know what this is talking about. Anyways, I guess that's the average. That's technically average, whatever. Listen, we talked about how structure was holding very, very well, but then we did unfortunately break out of this trend line, right? We talked about how for some time there was no confirmation of pretty much sells up until kind of Saturday and Sunday, which to be honest, personally did surprise me. Now, we did talk about the speculation back on Thursday or Friday, where I thought, next week, which would be this week, was going to take out these highs first, right? We would see something like this and then kind of the price action play out, because that's usually kind of historically what happens for most cryptos is you have 1 week of a pump, next week fakes out temporarily to the upside, and then it starts dumping. But we got to kind of see on a Saturday out of all days, this started to sell off. So hopefully people took some profits. I took some profits around the $7 or a little bit above the $7 because I bought somewhere down here, right? So I was up over a 3x. Let's see. So we sold it roughly around $7, a little bit more. So I was up over 3x so for short-term flips, I personally was done, even though price action didn't necessarily suggest there's going to be a dump just yet. We did cash out a little bit early, but that's fine because we are back at nice prices, right? We are back at nice prices of 586. And for those people that cashed out, let's just say anywhere from this point to this point, congratulations to you, especially if you did a short-term flip. To the people that are still holding ICP because maybe they bought at the bottom but they didn't want to flip, or they are simply in drawdown from higher prices, don't worry, right? Don't worry. This is just a correction. Corrections need to happen if you want price to continue to go up further and further. When we go and look at something like the 4 hour, we can see that we have this double top over here, right? We have this nice double top here. And, we don't really have any bullish momentum just yet. We have this zone, we have a low, we have this low, we have this lower high, lower low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, kind of equal low, equal kind of equal high, and then we kind of boom sold off lower low, right? Lower low, and we also technically do this as a lower high, so we can kind of see we have been kind of staircasing consistently downwards, right? I know this is kind of messy, but the truth is that's how price action works, right? So overall, this week is a bearish week. The month is still technically bullish. It is a little bit of a weird type of candle. It is going to be a decent rejection. The thing is, Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin did sweep this zone we were looking for at 98,000. It is starting to reverse now. So we will be monitoring to see how Bitcoin reacts and to see if Bitcoin overclaims these other zones. Because for something like Bitcoin, we have double tops, lower high, lower high, lower high. We have the lows, lower low, lower low, right? And so even if we technically close here on the 4 hour, it doesn't really move the needle just yet. It does make the daily much more weak in terms of bearish momentum. So we could possibly see short-term price action come back to 110, possibly even down upwards of 115,000, which obviously would mean ICP would be seeing another leg to the upside. Now, I overall expect ICP sooner than later to come back into this daily order block, right? This order block between 8.15 and $9, let's just say, right? Boom, right over here. We do have a nice zone down here as well, right? Boom, we have a nice zone over here. So it would not surprise me if we see ICP drop a little bit lower, as there are no suggestions that ICP will be going up higher and higher at this current moment. But it would not surprise me if we start to bottom out here. And if Bitcoin does see some surgence to the upside, then it wouldn't surprise me if we start going back from, let's just say 550 upwards of $9. Okay. Um, Overall, I'm very, 50-50 with Bitcoin. I still expect Bitcoin to be going back down to 92K to fill up this CME gap. If you're not familiar, there is a nice gap. Well, I say nice gap, but it's actually very, very annoying. There is a gap right over here at 92,000-ish. So I do overall expect for this to get filled. Like I said, in the short term, we could be going up before we go down, which could mean, like I said, ICP could see a little bit of resurgence. But overall, I kind of want this 92K gap to get filled by the end of 2025 so we can have a nice transition. We can have nice pumps for Bitcoin and a nice transition into altcoin season. Okay. As I do believe altcoin season will be happening in 2026. Based off the data, I do believe cryptos are going to be pumping very, very heavy. And we've seen, right, when ICP, even during a time where Bitcoin was selling off and weak, when ICP was kind of done with the bottoms, right, kind of bottomed out this zone over here and taking out all the liquidity because there's nothing literally left. There's nothing literally left. We took out all of these bottoms from 2023. We can see ICP had a huge shift in momentum, huge shift. So, and that's without all the money coming in. That's without an altcoin season. That's just because ICP's structure is unique. We took out the bottoms. The market maker said it is time to go up. Okay. Look, am I still very, very optimistic about ICP in general when it comes to the higher price action, higher term? Yes, I am. I really, really am. And I do believe that we will be breaking records of the ICP price over the next couple of months, right? In 2026. By breaking records, I mean just coming back down to prices or coming back up to prices we haven't seen for some time. You know, I did say I was going to make a full in-depth video about this, right? If you're not familiar, we pretty much have very, very similar structure to what we had back in 2022 and 2023, where we have a top, double top, kind of flat line, bottom, struggling, manipulation, taking out the lows, and then we start kind of recovering, right? We kind of have something similar now. Top, top, we kind of go flat line, we go down, we fail to go up, we go downwards, we take out the current bottoms, right? And then we have a surgence to the upside. We are literally doing the exact same thing, except this time around, I do believe it's going to be bigger and better. Remember, when ICP was at $3 and people were saying it's going to go upwards of 20, people were saying no. People were saying, no, that's too high. They're saying, well, we might come back to $7. We might come back to $6. That's what people were saying back then. So it's going to be the same thing. Some people think, we're only going to go upwards of, $15 to $20. But for me, I do believe at the bare minimum stinker altcoin season, we would be coming back at least to the 30s. But I do believe the high probability scenario is still the $70 zone. And that's the main zone I'm looking for. Unless something changes, that is still going to be my conviction. Now, of course, if altcoin season does happen and we get, let's say, those few weeks of consistent pumps and we kind of go pump 1 week, then we pump second week and pump third week and pump fourth week, for example, and there's lots of reversal signs at roughly $45 to $50, and we tap into this weekly institutional candle instead, then yes, I will cash out there because then I have all the data in front of me. I have signals of reversals and I will be cashing out there because it's going to be very dangerous for me to assume we're going to go up higher. Because the truth is, we could have a double kind of altcoin seasons thing where we do go upwards of $45 first, then we kind of sell off potentially back to something like $20. And then if there is a second leg, that's when the second leg could hit upwards of $80, right? That $70 to $80 zone that we've been talking about for some time. Okay. So it all depends on the data. When it's going to be time to be shining and it's going to be time to really lock in for those few weeks, those critical weeks where there's consistent pumps, that's when I'm going to know where roughly the tops for ICP are. ICP, yeah, ICP are. I had it done with Zbec in the past. I had it done with Turbo in the past. You can go check out those previous videos as well, where I called out, hey, I think we're nearing the top of a pump. I'm going to be cashing out my short-term flip, and that's what I've done. But this time around, right, it's not going to be a short-term flip because this is going to be, right, the next few pumps are going to be, pretty much the end of the pumps. And after that, we're going to go back to bear season, sideways boringness, little pump here, little pump there. And then again, a few years of a cycle where eventually ICP will probably go upwards of, huge, huge, huge money. That's not to say, right, if this cycle isn't insane and there isn't an insane amount of adoption and money that we can't go upwards of 140 or 180 this cycle or next year. But, in terms of the realism, in terms of the current relevant structure, right, I'm looking at the $70 mark. That is it though. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.